Hey guys, BeardBrigade here, and happy Monster Monday. So as you can see, we are back to doing this episode, I think it was like vlog style? You guys get to look at my face when I talk. So, last time I tried this, I had a huge issue with the video not lining up. Um, while I'm recording, I hope it doesn't happen. That was weird. I think Rocky just freaked out there. Her cage. Anyway, but speaking of, actually, there we go. Speaking of Rocky, our bearded dragon. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen posts of our beardy. Um, she's a big sweetheart and an adorable little bearded dragon. Right now, she's supposed to be sleeping, but otherwise I'd grab her. So she's our handy-capable lizard. Anyway, we'll talk about Rocky more in other episodes. I won't bore you guys and waste episode time. So for this episode, we're actually going to be talking about dragons. So, as you guys, if you're not familiar, I should say, if you haven't tuned into the last, I think, 2 weeks now, my Monster Mondays and Tabletop Tuesday episodes have been kind of linked together as part of a homebrew setting that I'm kind of putting together through these episodes as a way to show you guys how I do stuff, so that way you guys can see how I do things, and hopefully maybe give you guys some ideas, be able to give you guys resources and points of reference for how somebody else does it. So, and I'm not doing it just specifically homebrew for like tabletop reasons or gaming reasons, just in general for creating a setting of some kind, whether you are doing it for your own homebrew campaign setting for like D&D or something, whether you're creating a just entire world for some reason, maybe because you want to write a campaign in a big setting, or maybe you are a writer and you're trying to build a whole world in which your characters are going to be exploring and you're going to be writing about them in, or maybe you're a game developer and you're trying to create a setting that is yours, and you want to bring you want to try new things, or you want to get a different perspective on how somebody might do something to help you build your world or something like that for a game. So so for this episode, like I said, we're talking about dragons. So the reason we're talking about dragons, so I went around and I asked what is the first creature that comes to mind when you think fantasy or mythology? And the most common answer I got was dragons. And a lot of it was the reasoning for it, and there was a really good reason I got for it from Facebook. And it was that dragons are embedded within our culture across the world. I mean, you see dragons in Asia, you see dragons in Europe, you see dragons among Native Americans. I mean, they may not necessarily be dragons, but there's these flying serpent creatures. So there's this commonality between all cultures. So it's not really, I guess it shouldn't be a surprise that they are the one creature that really comes to mind when you think of fantasy or mythology. The first thing that usually comes to mind. I mean, and a couple of the good answers. I mean, some people were saying centaurs and Medusas and unicorns and Pegasuses, but dragons was the most common answer that I got out of everything that I had posted in. So I figured, might as well go. It's the most common answer I've gotten. We'll pick that for this. So the reason for this is that this is going to be the first I mean, aside from the old gods and the creature we made last episode, this creature is the first, like, real magical creature that's going to be entering our universe that we're making, our world that we're making. So the idea I had was, okay, so we're having dragons show up, right? So we're gonna have the first dragons arrive into the world. Well, that got me thinking, what references or what, in my knowledge and experience of dragons, do I know of that brings to life first dragons? I couldn't think of anything. Like, the closest thing I could think of was Game of Thrones, with, with all the dragons kind of being dead, and then, Daenerys gets her 3 eggs, and she hatches these dragons. That was really the only reference of, aside from, getting a dragon age and stuff like that. I've never seen, dragons haven't been too much of a research point for me, so, anything I've done with, unfortunately, now that I've put a lot of thought into them over the last few days. So I was kind of thinking to myself, like, I don't know of anything that has, in a story or a setting or in a movie or a game, where dragons are arriving for the very first time. So, I thought to myself, how would something like this happen? How would this creature happen in the world? So, I came up with 3 scenarios, and these are the 3 scenarios that we're going to go with, just to spitball. And while I'm, throwing them out there, whichever one kind of sounds the best is going to be the one that I go with. So, in terms of how we're going to introduce it tomorrow, as part of the Table Talk Tuesday at the end of it. So, the dragons will show up at the end of Table Talk Tuesdays, delving through the history of tomorrow's episode. So, sneak peek for you guys, we're going to be going through some history and developing on the map tomorrow, so dragons are going to show up. Anyway, so the first thing that I thought of for how does this fantasy setting just have dragons all of a sudden? And the first thing that came to mind, so in our current setting we have 3 old gods. Now, we have the Creator, we have the Destroyer, and we have the Corruptor. So I was thinking to myself, alright, well, which one of the 3 would bring dragons? With the Creator, because she's creating something new. I was like, well, that seems too obvious. Then I was like, well, no, the Destroyer would then do it. Well, no, the Destroyer, would do it, to bring destruction, make these powerful creatures into the world to destroy things. Okay, again, another kind of seems typical. And I was like, well, the Corruptor would do it, but why would the Corruptor do it? Couldn't really think of a reason why the Corruptor would do it. I was like, but, there's gotta be a reason why these dragons are brought into the world. So that got me thinking, what would happen? Why would the gods bring a creature like this in the world? And again, I couldn't really, at least in the stage where we're at where I'm setting up the homebrew, there's not really a reason for the old gods to deliberately put a creature into the world. So that got me thinking, what if they didn't do it on purpose? So, the first concept here is just the first dragons are brought into our setting as eggs. And now these eggs are just, oh, well, there's an egg suddenly. Well, I guess to some extent, yes. They'll be just kind of like, hey, there's suddenly an egg. But the egg is a result of the power of these old gods just manifesting in the world where there's been a lot of focus of their energy. So, as the gods have been creating things and shaping the terrain, in certain areas where there was a lot of work done, these eggs would have appeared, which then would also lean into this perfect way to set up different types of elements for the dragons. So our first one is just kind of like leftover magical power from gods, or leftover god power, I guess you could say. That leaves behind these eggs that would later hatch into what would become known as dragons. So that was the first idea I had. Now, that one's a bit kind of out there, right? So, my next thought was, all right, well, let's take the Darwin approach, so to speak, right? Let's say they evolved. So I think in our general setting right now, let me double check my notes here. About 7,000 years have gone by where we left off on the map. So they got me thinking, like, okay, maybe they evolved from something. Now, if you guys caught last week's Table Talk Tuesday, we talked about different regions and jotting down notes about what type of animals you would expect to find in a certain region within your setting. So I was thinking about the Darwin approach, and I was thinking, like, well, maybe a creature evolved over time to have, wings and stuff like that. And then it got me, again, really thinking about the setting, and I was like, man, this is not really, with the amount of time that's gone by and the type of environments that I have, and the humans that have populated in the setting so far haven't done much. So there's no real threat, no real reason for a creature to evolve into something that powerful. But then it got me really thinking that there was a region last week that I couldn't come up with anything for. Now, if you caught that episode, you're thinking to yourself, well, what was that one region that he had to skip? And I talked about it. I didn't cut it out, right? I left it in. So, we're paused for 1, 2, 3. Alright, now I'm going to tell you. I have a volcanic region on the map. What better place for a creature to evolve to, transition with its environment to survive in its environment than a volcanic, ashy area? The creature has to find a new source on which to feed. It has to adapt to its environment. So I was like, well, what better way than a lizard who has survived in this volcanic region with this constantly active volcano, but then to turn into a dragon over time. The lava, they become resistant to the extreme heats of the lava, and that's what creates these, super powerful dragon scales, which become, almost like a metal that could be forged with. They become winged because it's easier to get through the lava fields than trying to trudge through them, fly over them. They gain the power to breathe fire because they're constantly, in the volcanic region, they're breathing in sulfur, so they have a gland that, maybe it stores the sulfur. And, just all of these little things that over 7,000 years, maybe a decent-sized lizard that may have been in the area when the volcano went off would adapt to, and slowly, over time, maybe not be this huge dragon, but be the beginning of what would become a dragon. So that was that thought. I was like, well, that was kind of a really cool thought. And I was like, boom, oh man. So that's our first two. Now our third one. Alright, so for our third idea, I kind of got this from a little out there, guys. Now, it's inspired by a movie I saw a while back, and I think I saw it when it originally came out, but it was on, I think it was on Netflix a couple months ago, or maybe it was Hulu. I don't quite remember which one it was on. The movie star David Duchovny, which, if you're familiar with him, he was in the X-Files TV show as Fox Mulder, and he's had a lot of other roles too. I think that was kind of like his most notable one. Unless you saw Zoolander, then he was the hand model who had his hand in the glass case. But either way, so the movie starred him. It was called Evolution, and it was basically what happened was an asteroid hits Earth, and the asteroid had essentially like a primordial ooze in it, and this ooze created an ecosystem that these creatures began to evolve from and live in until they started to adapt to the human atmosphere, or Earth's atmosphere, and then started to evolve that way. So that was the next thing they came up with, was a third party. So something from outside of the planet shows up, an asteroid, debris of some kind, just something extraterrestrial arrives on the planet and leaves this, in this particular case, leaves several eggs, and these eggs then hatch and become the first dragons. So it was kind of hard to think about it for this setting. So for that one, I didn't really want to go for it for the dragons, but I still thought it was a really cool idea. So, yeah, extraterrestrials, asteroid. I'm totally forgot how to spell terrestrial in my notes here. So, anyway, you guys are probably wondering now, okay, you've gone over all three of them. Which one is going to be our pick, right? So, well, I was thinking to myself, I was like, all right, which one's going to be the best one? Which one I think is going to really take the cake now? And, I really liked all three ideas, but the one that we're going to go for, that'll be in tomorrow's episode, is actually the evolving, the lizard that evolves, because I think that one really sets forth what I'm trying to do with this particular setting, because I'm trying to make it a little bit more natural in that regards, and I haven't really, but the last two episodes have really been focused on the gods doing stuff. So really kind of, well, I guess the in terms of what's developed so far, the gods have been involved. Well, the last episode was about more of a DM tip. So for what I'm attempting to try and do, I felt it was the best one. So anyway, guys, let me know what you thought of this in the comments below. Give me some other ideas of what you have for a first dragon to show up in a setting, and let me know if you know of any stories or games or books or anything that actually introduces dragons for the very first time, as this is the first time they've ever been seen, type of thing. Not just introduces it to the setting. They've been around, but it's the first time the character's seeing it. No, I mean literally the first time that the setting is seeing a dragon ever. No one knows that it's a dragon. We're in that moment where they see it and they say, "That's a dragon." That's the kind of moment that I'm talking about. So, leave me some feedback, guys. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you have any other ideas, too, about how to introduce a dragon for the first time into a setting. So, other than that, guys, I hope you have enjoyed. So, like and subscribe as always. I really appreciate you guys always checking out my videos. Next, popping up on your screen right now, right above where I'm pointing up here, there will be a list of my social media handles on Twitter and Instagram. And of course, you can always find me on Twitch, somewhere up above my finger there. I'm trying this for the first time, guys, so hopefully I get the edit for this part down. Otherwise, it's going to look really goofy because I'm going to be pointing at nothing. So, you can find me at Twitch, and you can find me at social media, and other than that, guys, we have to update our playlists. So, for our playlist, let us grab our handy dandy phone, right? So, pull up Spotify. Boom, Spotify. By no way am I sponsored by Spotify in any way, shape, or form. I just really love the app. We are gonna go with video game music this month, guys. You know what? Just because we're gonna go with the Halo theme. More specifically, the Halo theme, the Mjolnir mix. That'll be our Nerd Quantic song. So, you guys love this next part. I know you do. I'm looking at you guys. I see you. I see the smiles on your faces right now. I know what's gonna happen next. You know what's gonna happen next. Because guys and gals, ladies, gentlemen, and kiddos, it's time for the song of the day. Yeah. Song of the day. Yeah. Song of the day. Yeah. We're still waiting for someone to remix it, guys. Come on. Let's snap to it. Snap to it. Please don't. Please don't actually make a remix. I'm kidding. I really am. No, do it. Anyway, it's time for the song of the day, guys. So, popping over to our favorites. Let's take a look here. I haven't added a lot lately. Been really busy with trying to stay on top of it. Let's see. No, we're gonna go with Thunderhead by the Native Howl. I don't really have a good way to describe that song, so that one, you're literally gonna have to just listen to it and trust me, it's awesome. Anyway, guys, that will wrap us up for this episode, so thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I super duper appreciate you guys. We will catch you next time. Make sure you take care of yourselves, and you guys have a good one.